Tolkien tells the story of the young man who would become the acclaimed author of The Hobbit and The Lord of the Rings. Orphaned at a young age, J.R.R. Tolkien's vast imagination and love for language, as well as the influences of friendship, romance, and war, combined to birth his vision for the now classic tales of Middle-earth. Does Tolkien do its subject justice for both fans and newcomers to his work? I'm John Battiston, and this is Real Underdogs. Welcome to Real Underdogs, your friends at the bottom of the box office. I'm here as always with my panelists Karlyn, Chen.
Hello.
Trent, Neely.
What's up, people?
And we've got a special guest panelist today, Tolkien fan extraordinaire, Joseph Sneed.
Hello.
How you doing?
I'm doing fantastic.
So, because we've got a Tolkien fan on, we are actually going to be covering the film Tolkien that was released this last weekend against a lot of box office competition. So let's take a look at what it went up against. So this last weekend, well, once again, we had Avengers Endgame coming out on top. Not a big surprise. And we're talking about the domestic box office, of course. After that, we had Pokemon Detective Pikachu, which you liked, Trent.
I had a fun time. Ryan Reynolds carries it, but if you like Ryan Reynolds, that's just fine. So, yeah, I would recommend. And then I've heard from hardcore Pokemon fans, which I am not, that it was a really fun Easter egg-filled extravaganza. So,
Yeah, no, I like got a little into Pokemon as a kid. Like watched the TV show like mornings before school, but like, you know, I think it looks like it'd just be something to have a little fun with.
Yeah,
but might give it a try. We also had some high-ish box office earners with The Hustle, the recent remake of Dirty Rotten Scoundrels, The Intruder with Dennis Quaid, and Long Shot with Charlize Theron and Seth Rogen. And so Tolkien came in pretty low down the list. Let's take a look at Box Office Mojo for the weekend. So Tolkien came in number 9 this weekend, which is, even with a box office kind of clustered with a lot of different new movies, it's kind of rough.
yeah.
One other new release that came out this previous weekend was Palms, that the movie about like
the
elderly women cheerleading competition. That got about $5.3 million. That came in at number 6. And then you had Ugly Dolls, Breakthrough, and Tolkien. So this came in under Breakthrough in its 6th week of release.
Wow.
That's crazy.
But I also think I've seen almost zero marketing for this movie.
Yes.
And the word of mouth, since people haven't seen it, isn't strong enough to carry it through, so it doesn't utterly shock me that it's not making buttloads of money either.
Yeah, I'm kind of the same way. I hadn't seen much of it, and I mean, like, it is one of the few on the list that was released by an independent film studio. It was released by Fox Searchlight, which I thought was like done for.
I thought so too. I might have misunderstood that it was done for, or maybe it may be one of the last releases.
I think Disney in the reshuffle might be keeping Searchlight for the smaller independent films that they want to do, and keeping just Fox in for maybe like for their Deadpool type movies.
Yeah, that makes sense.
So I think they're still keeping the studios and maybe shutting down some divisions of them, but still keeping those open.
Well, that'll make me happy if they keep Searchlight, because Searchlight's been responsible for some of my favorite movies, like, since I've been alive, and so I hope they keep that going. But yeah, so we've got this movie, Tolkien. It was, if you cannot really pick up on it.
Tolkien! The movie went through great lengths, John, to teach you how to say this man's name.
It was in like the first 10 minutes.
It's better than me saying Tolkien, to be fair. So let's go ahead and take a look at the rundown for this movie. So the director of Tolkien was I'm going to mispronounce this, Dome Karukoski. He's a Finnish director, and this is his English language debut film. It was written by David Gleason and Stephen Beresford. As cinematographer, most of the cast and crew on this movie, I believe, is Finnish. As cinematographer, you've got Lasse Frank Johannesson, and editor, you've got Harry Jalonen. I'm not even.
Sorry, we're not fluent in Finnish. So.
No.
Tolkien is.
Is he really? Or was he?
He was taking Finnish and putting it into some of his languages in the movie.
Well, that makes sense.
This is why Joseph is here today.
They talked about that in the movie.
Yeah, it was when he was talking to the
Because
professor.
he had a lot of Finnish influence.
Yes, not stealing, influence.
Influence.
I'll mention why I might have missed that when we. But and then finally, music by the legendary Thomas Newman, who has composed pretty much every movie, every which way to Sunday. We've got. He did Skyfall, he did WALL-E, American Beauty, The Help, just so many.
Yeah.
He's a legendary composer. And,
Yeah.
So we'll talk about him too. But finally, let's look at the cast for Tolkien. We've got Nicholas Hoult as J.R.R. Tolkien. We've got Lily Collins as Edith Bratt, his love interest. And they're kind of the two real main focuses of the movie. You don't spend a whole lot of time with many other actors. You got kind of trading between.
Well, except his fellowship bros.
Yeah.
His
Okay, yeah.
group of friends.
That's the main takeaway.
I'm looking at the IMDb and it's just like they're so scattered. I can't even find them, and I honestly don't even remember their characters' names. So.
Jeffrey Boxsmith. He was the one that stuck with me. Christopher something.
Christopher Wiseman.
Christopher Wiseman.
Okay, so Jeffrey Smith is played by Anthony Boyle. Chris Wiseman is played by Tom Glynn Carney, and Robert Gilson is
That's
the
right,
other
Gilson.
one, played by Patrick Gibson. And those are all in adult form. The child actors are here somewhere. I don't know who played young. Okay, Harry Gilby played a young Tolkien. I think probably like age 13 or 14 somewhere around there.
Yeah, sounds about right.
That's where I about placed him. But yeah, so it almost should be a little bit obvious. But Joseph, would you like to give us a summary of the plot of Tolkien?
I'll do my best. Tolkien starts out, follows him as a child, and kind of tracks his way up through his days in World War I, how he meets the love of his life, how he meets his close friends that go into World War I with him. I'm a pretty short guy, so I get through synopses very fast.
No, that's about it.
That's about it. That's about all I got.
It does not go as deep into his Middle-earth adventures as I thought it would.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Which is kind of a disclaimer, because I was looking at it, I was like, oh, he may do some stuff, and it really just scratched the surface of it.
Yep.
Yeah, no, the movie really ends right as he's formulating the idea for The Hobbit.
Yes, the first line of The Hobbit goes, "In a hole in the ground there lived a hobbit."
Mm-hmm.
And so writing that, I actually enjoyed that as an ending to the movie.
Yeah.
Because I saw it, and they seem to really shy away from Lord of the Rings, but also wanting to be like, he's still the Lord of the Rings guy. But they didn't do a whole lot, and then when he started writing In a Hole in the Ground, I was like, oh, okay, so this is where he's getting the ideas for The Hobbit.
Yeah.
The movie was cool because it had some like mystical. It had a mystical side of visuals that could kind of be formed into Lord of the Rings, but it's in his everyday life. And I thought that was, at first I thought it was a little cheesy. I was like, what are you doing?
Yeah.
But then I was like, you know what? I can appreciate it.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The war montage at the end had a lot of stuff from both the Hobbit and Lord of the Rings, because you see what I think was Sauron, and the shadows running around started to form together. To me, they looked like the Nazgul, which are the 9 servants of Sauron. Sorry for deep diving
It's
in.
okay.
No,
you
this-
can nerd out. This
yes,
is the place.
this-
I
place.
saw a Balrog
Mm-hmm.
and a dragon.
Yeah.
Which the dragon ended up being flamethrowers in World War I. I guess he was... I don't know if they were playing it up as a hallucination or because they said he had a fever.
Yeah, I would say it seems like to me the movie was playing it up as trench fever combined
Yeah.
with his active imagination
Mhm.
helped him to see these things on the battlefield. I don't know whether that's true to his actual life. If he ever said yeah, when I was in the trenches I saw
As far as I've known, looking at what he's written nonfiction,
mm-hmm.
I haven't seen anything. I am not the most well-read of his nonfiction letters, but I haven't seen anything that suggests that that's where he got all the ideas from. It's more like from where his mom was reading him the legends.
Yeah, that was a really
of the
cool
old
scene.
times.
I like that scene a lot.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I guess going into the movie, were you guys expecting anything in particular? Were you looking forward to getting to see any particular part of his life portrayed on screen?
going into it, I had heard that they didn't touch much on his Catholicism or his relationship with C.S. Lewis, which I thought was really strange because those are two very important parts of his life. But as the movie progressed, I was thinking, okay, it makes sense that C.S. Lewis isn't here because it's focusing on the younger part of his life and they didn't meet until they were older. So I was fine with that. They still kind of glossed over the Catholicism a little bit for me, but, just streamlining it. Mm-hmm. I was okay with it.
Yeah, I wanted a little bit more of him developing Lord of the Rings. Looking back, I understand why they didn't, but like if you do a movie on Tolkien, who's most famous for developing Lord of the Rings, and you beat around the bush about Lord of the Rings, it's kind of like, why?
Watching the movie, I was wondering how much of it they could use because they don't have the rights.
That's true, because Warner Brothers has the rights.
Warner Brothers has the rights, so it's almost like they made a Tolkien movie that was not going to talk at all about Lord of the Rings, The Hobbit, or his other big work is The Silmarillion.
Yeah, that's an interesting wrinkle I hadn't really thought of, but
yeah, watching the movie, I was like, this is very clearly a movie that does not have the rights to Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
or Hobbit.
I wonder how different it would be if Warner Brothers had the chance to actually make this, and they could directly just be like, we will incorporate Lord of the Rings into this.
But then I feel like it would be more of a documentary than a film.
Yeah. I don't know. Maybe it would have been more interesting. I'm not gonna lie. Like, I mean, I hate to dive into critique of the movie so early. Well, Karlyn and I went to see this together, and I fell asleep more than once. I have never fallen asleep in a movie theater before, and I also had kind of a headache. I've not been feeling the best for the last couple of days, but I just was out for the count.
There were some times where I fought the urge to fall asleep.
If I was not a Tolkien fan, I would have probably checked out of the movie.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. I fall asleep during a lot of movies, and I did not fall asleep at this one. I thought it was pretty good.
Yeah.
In some ways, it was entertaining. It was definitely not the most exciting or most upbeat movie, but.
Yeah, to swing it to the positive, I really like Nicholas Hoult in this. I think he gives a good performance, and I like Lily Collins too. After seeing her in this and Extremely Wicked last week, I'm excited for what she does in the future. Mm-hmm.
I also loved his little guy group. What are they called?
Yeah, the TCBS.
TCBS. That was the highlight of the movie.
Yeah, I'm with you on that one.
Yeah,
the best part of the movie for me was his relationship with his friends.
100%
even more than his relationship with Edith.
I agree
because I think it was supposed to surpass that anyway. Edith was a very much of a side plot.
Because when you watch the trailer, it is very focused on him and Edith, and I'm like, oh, is it going to be a cliche thing of his love for her is what inspires his writing? But it's no, it's a combination of his mother reading these stories to him when he's young, his relationship with her, but more importantly, this fellowship. They even say fellowship at one point, with these guys.
They really hint at Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
without outright saying.
But it's cool because it's
it is cool because.
I don't know how accurate this is, but it feels like as Tolkien goes throughout his life, he adds things to the arsenal that he can use later in his movies.
I got some things here for later.
And I also really appreciate that one of the few things I knew about Tolkien before this movie was that he loved language. So I like that the movie did emphasize that the reason he wrote this wasn't to necessarily be a storyteller, but he just loved words. And then he was like, I want to do something with these words, so I'll make a story out of it by proxy.
His main purpose of Lord of the Rings, I believe, was making a modern mythology for England because they had the King Arthur tales, Sir Gawain and the Green Knight, all the old English, Middle English tales. Beowulf. Right. Beowulf was a huge influence. Mm-hmm. He wanted to make a new one for the current generation. Current generation being the 1920s-ish.
Yeah.
1910s, 1920s. So the best parts of the movie for me were the languages and his stuff with his friends.
Yeah.
Can we dive a little bit deeper into TCBS? Because honestly, they were incredible.
Yeah.
So basically, Tolkien is an orphan, which I also didn't know. But he is sent to this school with his foster family. I don't know.
Yeah.
Does he get actually adopted, or is he just a foster?
He's there as a foster child, but his main guardian is the priest.
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. And he and this guy don't get along, they fight, but then they're forced to do everything together as a punishment. Mm-hmm. And so eventually they become closer, and this is him and Christopher, right? Mm-hmm. No, Robert?
Christopher was
So
the one,
names.
I think Christopher was the one that they got punished together.
Yeah.
and Jeffrey was the one that was like, he meant to say he's sorry, come have tea with us.
Yes.
Let's be friends.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so it was like these 4 guys, and they just start doing everything together, and they start like encouraging each other in the arts because they like painting and poetry and writing, but like their parents and society tells them that that's not like relevant enough to like really make a career out of it. And so like they just get together and they like listen to each other's stuff and like encourage each other, and it becomes a brotherhood. And it's really cool for Tolkien because he's an orphan and this becomes their family. And they like basically commit to each other that like they are brothers, like this is a thing, and they like look out for each other, they like joke around with each other, but they're like always there for each other even when they fight. And I think it was just a really cool story of restoration, but also friendship, fellowship, if you will. And it's a beautiful image of like committed friends.
Yeah, I really enjoyed that part of the movie a lot.
I didn't know a whole lot about his group of friends because going into it, I had thought C.S. Lewis was part of it, and then I remembered that they didn't meet until later. And so that part of the movie really surprised me because I didn't see it in the trailers.
Yeah.
Because, like you said, they focus so much on his relationship with Edith Bratt.
And I think that's mainly due to Nicholas Hoult and Lily Collins being the two most
they're
famous people in this movie.
the faces
Right.
of the movie.
So,
Yeah. I was actually like kind of waiting, like if one of the friends, I was just like, is one of them Clive? He's gonna say Clive. Like,
I know, I was waiting for that too.
like I was honestly thinking that C.S. Lewis was gonna be one of them, but nope. And I mean, like just because I don't know nearly as much about Tolkien's life as the next guy. I didn't know when he and C.S. Lewis had become friends, but now that you say that, that's later on.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah,
makes sense.
they were working on Lord of the Rings and Narnia almost concurrently, I think. And The Hobbit was released in 1937.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think
that's
you're
what
right.
They said that at the end of
Text
the
card
movie.
said
So
it.
they kind of compared notes on the worlds some because they're both hugely famous fantasy worlds.
Mm-hmm.
yeah.
Were they famous? Were they alive when their books got famous?
Yes.
Well, because Tolkien didn't die till
Tolkien died in
1970.
1973, I think, which is so strange for me because my dad was born in 1971 and he read all the books growing up. He's read more of Tolkien than I have, and then C.S. Lewis. I don't know when Narnia was published, but it was probably around the same time.
It was close to the same time.
Because I think Fellowship of the Ring came out in maybe the early 40s.
Narnia was published in 1950.
Oh wow. Okay.
Oh,
The
That's
Lion,
later
the
than
Witch,
I
and the
thought.
Wardrobe was.
And that was the first one published,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
Okay, that's what. Even though it's technically not the first chronologically.
Yes.
And then let's take a look at.
Fellowship of the Ring, The Two Towers, and Return of the King, I think were released one a year.
Yeah, the first one oh wow.
He wrote those all in 1 year. Like
No,
one...
he had worked on them and then just kind of released them. I think is the story.
Yeah, actually, first the Fellowship was not published until 1954.
Oh wow.
Oh, wow.
That's weird. I did not know
So
that. Yeah, it was.
That's 15 years after The Hobbit.
Yeah, no, that was both Fellowship and Two Towers.
That's right, actually. I didn't know that because the edition I have of Fellowship on my Kindle is like an anniversary edition that like Tolkien's son writes the foreword for, and he says,
Tolkien's son Christopher is awesome.
yeah, and so he says like 15 years after The Hobbit, Dad wanted to like continue this journey into Middle Earth and and so yeah, that.
Just a word about Christopher. Christopher Tolkien is, I think, the youngest son, and he's about 90 right now, and he released a new book for Middle Earth last year.
Whoa, I did not know that.
He's continued the Tolkien legacy. He's released, oh my goodness, he's released 3 or 4, maybe 5 books posthumously for J.R.R. and reference books and all kinds of things. Funny thing, they did not endorse this movie, The Tolkien Estate.
Yeah, I saw that.
But
Really? Like they didn't even like.
they also don't endorse the Peter Jackson movies, any of them.
Oh, that's
all
true.
6 of
That's
them.
right. I remember.
Do you have something against it, or they're just like, we're just...
They think it departs, or Christopher is the main one. He thinks it departs too much from what his dad had written, which I can understand because it does. So I think a lot of people are sometimes mad at him about it. I'm not, because he's done so much for just Middle Earth in general.
Mhm.
Going back through reading all of his dad's just notes and scribbles about it and putting together books.
Yeah, that's
Hmm.
insane.
So, Christopher Tolkien, very awesome dude.
Yeah, no, I had no idea that he was contributing that much to the Middle Earth franchise. That's so cool.
Because I can't remember if even the Silmarillion was out when Tolkien died.
Mm-hmm.
So it's been the Silmarillion, Children of Hurin, Beren and Luthien, which I'll get to in a little bit.
Yeah,
Fall
all
of
these things are
Gondolin.
going right over my head.
Fall of Gondolin was the one that came out last year. There's one or Unfinished Tales. There might be one more that I'm missing, and I have not read all of those.
I can't even get through Fellowship. I've tried twice, and I will do it eventually. Because I'm stubborn and I'm a completionist, so I will do it because
Right.
I can't leave it unfinished.
Mhm.
But not right now.
Yeah, Silmarillion was released 1977, so
that was after his death.
Yeah, about 4 years after he died. Yeah, and I mean that's probably one of the biggest. Like, essentially, that's like a Middle Earth encyclopedia. Pretty much.
It's the Middle Earth Bible.
Yeah.
It tracks Middle Earth through creation up to Lord of the Rings, I think. And Lord of the Rings is like a chapter in that book.
Mm-hmm.
So that book is huge.
Dang.
Very hard to read.
Yeah, I probably won't touch that one.
That's not for me.
That's for people like Joseph
And Stephen Colbert.
and
Trey
Stephen Colbert. That's true.
And Trey Moore.
Yeah, some
Shout out.
big time.
He actually has read the Silmarillion.
Wow.
I have not finished it.
Dang.
Dang.
I mean, that doesn't surprise me. Trey's very well read, but
He's the biggest Tolkien fan I've ever met.
Really? I didn't know that.
yeah. But so back to Tolkien as a movie. So like,
Sorry for the tangent.
oh no, it's
No,
fine.
no.
It's fine. This
We
is
like the tangents.
We like tangents.
our primary language is tangents. Just
And then occasionally we'll go back to the movie we were talking about. Be like, what we're doing? Oh yeah.
yeah, no. From top to bottom, it goes tangents, logical fallacies, movie talk. That's pretty much
That's summation right there.
how we go. But yeah, so Tolkien as a movie, like, what did you guys think of it as just like a crafted film? Like, because we've talked about the acting a little bit. Like, I agree, Nicholas Hoult and Lily Collins are both very good.
Yeah, their scene in a restaurant where she's like, "Tell me a story," and like he sort of like grows as a storyteller in that moment. It's a really good scene crafted between the two of them.
That is a good one. Yeah.
I also like when they tried to go to the theater, but then they like couldn't make it in.
Oh,
but then they were like in the props room, basically.
Yeah, that was fun.
That was hilarious. I
Yeah.
thought that was cute.
So
was
yeah,
cute,
so
yeah.
the acting I think is actually pretty solid overall, like really solid overall in this movie.
Mm-hmm.
I think visually it's really good looking.
Yeah, the coloring is great.
Yeah.
Agreed.
Now my biggest flaw with this movie, the editing.
Mm-hmm.
Oh my goodness, the pacing of this film. Like, if you told me, like, it was 5 hours, like, after experiencing it, I would believe you. Like, it feels like it's about 5 hours long.
Trent and I went at 10 last night, and you know how there's like 20 minutes of previews.
Yeah, that doesn't help.
I got out, and when we were leaving, I looked at my phone, and it was just after midnight, and I was like, that's not possible. This thing had to be longer than this.
Yeah, no, it felt... Maybe we watched the extended edition. I don't know, because if it's related to Tolkien, you know there's going to be an extended edition of this.
I don't know, the extended editions usually improve it.
Yeah, no, true.
Yeah, because, like, like, this movie... Like, most movies have, like, a very traditional, like, 3-act structure.
Mm-hmm.
And this movie, I can't nail down the precise acts.
That's exactly what I was thinking when we were coming back last night. I was thinking in my head, because Avengers Endgame was fresh in my head, I was like, I can put down what exactly the 3 acts of that movie are.
Me too.
And then watching this movie, I was like, well, Tolkien, he grows up, and he goes to school, and he goes to war, and then, the movie ends.
Oh my goodness, like, okay, so the movie is like a little bit on his childhood, and then it kind of flash forwards to when he's like 13, 15, high school age. And then the movie spends most of its time actually sort of in that 15 to like 20-year-old time, which I'm fine with. And then when it gets to World War One, oh my goodness, like you see flashbacks of it, but like once you actually get there in real time with the movie, it goes by so fast. Like it's like there's war, he's looking for his friend, and then he's back, and then the movie's over. And I'm like, what? I'm like, you're telling me like World War One didn't have more of an impact on him than 5 minutes of screen time?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
There was
Also,
one. Oh, go ahead.
Sorry. He's like looking for his friend for like the whole movie, and then his friend is I don't know. Is this a spoiler? I don't know if people are gonna see it. Okay, I'm gonna spoil this right now. So
It's
plug
real.
your ears.
If it's real life, I spoil away.
Yeah, I would say real life.
It's been
Well,
spoiled
he's
for 100
dead.
years.
He's been dead for like 2 weeks. So
Yeah.
then I'm like, okay, well that was really awful. That was just so unresolved.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And I mean, I don't know like how true to life that is. That he was looking for which friend in particular?
He was looking for
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey.
Jeffrey. That's what I thought.
Yeah.
And like, was that I don't know how true to life that was. That he was like that adamant about finding Jeffrey for that
Yeah, I don't
span
know.
of time.
I'm not sure.
But it's like, why would you make that such a pertinent part of the war plot, and then you not find him?
Now, there was something cool about that section, though, where I think I heard this right. The soldier that's helping him look is Sam,
It's
right?
Sam!
His name is Sam.
And I'm like,
Yes.
oh, that's awesome. I'm okay with that. Like,
I
Yeah.
think that's actually real. I think
I think
he got the character of Sam and based it on that soldier. Because if you look at that soldier, and they probably did change it up a lot, that soldier was like, I'm dedicated to you. I'm going to help you, sir.
yeah,
And
he practically carries
that's
him.
how Sam is in Lord of the Rings, especially Return of the King. Great movie. Sean Astin did fantastic in that.
Oh my gosh, so good.
I can't carry it for you, Mr. Frodo, but I
But
can carry you.
Oh, it breaks my heart. It's so good.
Tears
Oh.
every time. Not like all crying, but like my eyes get watery. Return of the King is
It's one of the best
Okay,
movies
Joseph,
ever made.
it's not the first time. The second time I saw Endgame, I cried when everybody came through the portal. So I have no shame about tears.
There's like 2 parts in Return of the King that get me every time. It's the well, it's probably 3. It's the part where Sam is carrying Frodo, and then when Aragorn says, "You bow to no one,"
Oh, it's so good.
and then the goodbye at the Grey Havens at the end of the movie.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh, that you bow to no one. That's such a good moment. Oh
That's
my
a
gosh.
great moment. Yeah. I need to rewatch those. I like the extended editions have just been sitting on my shelf for years. Like, oh, I need to revisit.
Yeah,
them.
I've seen the theatrical. I've seen all the theatricals at least once, and then I've seen Fellowship probably 2 or 3 times.
My
My family binge watched it, and I have not been able to go back and watch it.
My family goes hardcore because my sister loves the Hobbit movies and I love Lord of the Rings. So we watch all 6 of them once or twice a year.
Oh, dang.
Extended editions.
Oh my
dang.
gosh.
So it takes a good 2 or 3 weeks to get through.
Yeah.
Maybe even more.
Yeah, no, because I mean, like,
I like to skip the Hobbit movies, but that's just me.
that's my preference too.
Yeah,
honestly.
I
I actually have not seen the second or the third because the first made me so angry. Like,
I really enjoyed the first.
I just didn't get down, and it wasn't necessarily from the story standpoint or from the character standpoint or whatever. It was from the standpoint that, like, from a filmmaking perspective, they stepped back on all of the filmmaking techniques that made the first 3 so
It
great.
seems so low quality compared to the first 3 Lord of the Rings.
Yeah.
Which is ironic because it cost more to make. It used quote unquote more advanced technology. Like, all the creatures are done with CGI now,
And they
like,
all look worse.
they look terrible.
I think that's a problem. You'll find that symptom a lot in movies from like 2007 to 2010, where like they were like, because back in the 90s and early 2000s when CGI was just coming out, people were like, okay, this is cool and a tool, but we can't over rely on it. We'll just use it for some stuff. Versus when the Hobbit movies were being made, they're like, CGI is great. We can use it for everything.
Yep.
I think the best balances of CGI and practical effects I've ever seen. You guys will probably hate one of these movies, but the 3 Lord of the Rings movies
Right.
and the Phantom Menace.
Phantom-
I think the Phantom Menace looks great.
I've not seen it.
You're okay not seeing that one.
I can't say I totally agree.
But I can't say I totally disagree either.
I think
Right,
I
yeah.
think looking back on it, if you watch the Phantom Menace with the other 2 prequel movies, I
It
think
looks
it's
the
still, I
best.
think it's still the best looking one.
Yes,
Yes.
absolutely.
And the Phantom Menace was a 1999 movie.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah, no, exactly.
so
And
it's right around.
And then and Jurassic Park too did an amazing
Yes.
use of
Jurassic Park, I forgot
CGI and then mixed with the animatronics.
especially with the scene of the first T-Rex attack scene on the Jeep is like
Yeah.
a seamless blend of animatronics and CGI
Yeah,
that you
it's
just
awesome.
you still don't notice. And
Well,
the
'cause
movie's
they knew-
25 years
Because
old.
they knew the imperfections of CGI show up when it's close up. We're only using CGI for the far away shots and then animatronics for close ups.
you know, it's been a while since I've seen Jurassic Park. I need to go back and watch it.
Yes, you do.
Yeah.
So good.
That first
Yeah.
one, like that franchise, I think some parts of it get overhyped, but that first movie is
I haven't been
Gorgeous.
I haven't been polluted by the second and the third one yet.
Neither have I.
And I watched-
second one actually has decent moments because it's still Spielberg in like that prime time of his career. There's one shot of like that everybody talks about of like velociraptors like circling in on these people in like tall grass fields, so you just see their trail. You don't even see them. It's awesome.
The Jurassic World movies to me are bad, but like the fun bad.
Yes.
Yeah.
I never saw The Fallen Kingdom. I heard it was so bad that.
Oh, it's awful, but it's a fun awful.
Yeah. I have fun with the first one because Chris Pratt.
Oh yeah.
Yes.
No. For me, fun bad movies actually like barely exist. Like I very seldom have fun watching a terrible movie unless it's just truly
Shaolin Soccer.
Yeah, you should watch Shaolin Soccer.
That's what I've been hearing from a lot of people.
Have you seen it, Karlyn?
Oh yeah, I watched it all the time when I was little.
But I've also come to understand that that one's a little more like self-aware bad.
Oh
Like,
yes.
if we're talking about movies that are just like bad but not aware about it, like just like don't know that they're bad. Like I'm talking, but at the same time, like there's a level at which it does become entertaining. Serenity
Oh god.
thinks it's so much better than it is. It's a terrible,
I
terrible
feel like
movie.
yeah, we were so mad about it though the night of, but it's gotten fonder in our memories.
Well, yeah, and I mean like it was kind of fun watching how much of a train wreck it was. But very few movies are like that for me. Like if a movie is trying its hardest to be good and also has a lot of promise to live up to, which is like why that's like why the first Hobbit disappointed me so much. That's why Jurassic World disappointed me so much because they had a lot to live up to, which is like, I mean, you could have some sympathy for that, which I do, but at the same time, like when you just fail that epically, like I kind of lose.
One of my friends basically had to drag me into Jurassic World 2, the Fallen Kingdom one. So my expectations were almost negative, if you can put that on like a graph. And so I had a fun time just sitting watching dinosaurs mess stuff up for 2 hours.
Yeah, my sister and her fiance said they're like, this movie is terrible. However, they got a great cinematographer because the movie kind of looks gorgeous. Like,
Oh, when they blow up the island, because like it was in the trailer.
That's in the trailer. That's fine.
There's no
It was
surprise there.
it was really cool looking.
Yeah,
It did look really good from what I saw. Yeah.
that looked like to be the best part of the movie visually. Anyway,
They made a sweet dinosaur at the end. A new like
I also liked the part where they were like selling dinosaurs. That was
yeah
beautiful
the
too.
auction.
yeah, that comes up in Jurassic Park 2 though. So like that soured me on that in Fallen Kingdom.
They had the super Velociraptor and Dominus Rex T-Rex thing.
Yeah.
And it was super cool.
Oh well, how did we get on this?
I was like,
I don't know.
I don't know.
Literally, we were just like, let's reel it back into Tolkien, and we're off Tolkien again.
Jurassic World 2.
Not that big of a jump,
But
honestly.
is it honestly mean to say that I've kind of said everything I've thought about Tolkien?
Yeah,
already?
I have too. I was so bored. It was just, and the pacing was the biggest culprit.
Yeah.
Like, I acknowledge that Tolkien led a very, very interesting life. I mean, you can't write the incredible saga of Middle Earth and have an uninteresting life. I just don't think that's possible.
No.
But like, I just think it selected some of the not so important parts, or at least put emphasis on some things more than it should have, or less than it should have. Kind of like you said, like I'm sure war had more of an effect on his writing than the movie led us to believe.
It most certainly did.
Like, and it just kind of felt like the war scenes were there in order to be able to classify it as a war movie, or just like to have a little
No, this is definitely not a war movie.
just to have a little action to drag your attention back. At
The
the
war
very
scene
least. And
the war scene at the end I liked, but to me that was just, remember, this is the Lord of the Rings guy. Here's Sauron. Here's a battle.
Yeah, I was like,
all
here's
this stuff.
Sauron in the sky.
If
so you
if they
remember.
did not have that scene, it wouldn't have changed the movie at all for me.
No.
Other than being like, oh, that's cool. I like Lord of the Rings. That's cool. I like Lord of the Rings. That's cool. I like The Hobbit. To me, that scene was almost like just a checkbox to, because watching the movie, I was like, you could pass this off, just change his name to Smith or something, and it wouldn't change the movie at all for me.
No.
This is
Well, see, but I
this
think
is
that's
writer's
why
Smith.
I enjoyed it more, because I wasn't tying it to Lord of the Rings. Like, yes, there's like certain imagery that kind of like pointed that way, but for me that wasn't the main point of the story. It was about like Tolkien. And mostly about him and his brothers, or his fellowship, whatever. For me,
the relationship with the brothers was good for me. I still have trouble looking at a Tolkien movie that doesn't reference Lord of the Rings.
Yeah,
because
that's
it's even really just a little bit other than imagery, because it's such a big part of his life, and you could see early in the movie they had his little drawings and some of his elvish runes up on the wall. But
it'd be like doing a John Williams movie, being like, oh yeah, he did a thing for a space saga one time, and like that helped him in his career a little bit.
it wouldn't even be that. It would be what not awesome movie has John Williams done?
He hasn't. That's what makes him John Williams.
Oh man, he's done so many, but like I can't think of a bad one. Is the thing.
I can't either. But it'd be like, here's a guy who's he wants to grow up and be a conductor, and you make the John Williams movie and you don't talk about Jaws or Star Wars or Indiana Jones or Jurassic Park.
Yeah,
that would feel kind of empty, and I mean that's kind of. I mean, I understand that, like, having that expectation not in watching this movie and, like, not wanting to, like, really see, okay, this is Tolkien, like, this is the Lord of the Rings guy, just this is a guy. Like, I can understand, like, going in with that expectation and being satisfied by this movie, but not only the way that this was marketed, but the way that the movie was, like, I think was actually trying to present itself is just, like, this is the story of how this guy came to write Lord of the Rings.
I mean, heck, the ring is in the poster.
Yeah.
The play they go to or the opera they go to is about a magic ring.
Yeah.
Like they drop so many hints to be like, it is about the Lord of the Rings guy, but
it could be about any other guy.
It could really be about anybody.
There wasn't. The best thing for me was the relationship with his friends, but there wasn't anything to me that set him apart as Tolkien.
No,
that could be
except for the love of language. I knew that was a trademark.
The love of language. But this movie could be him just as an average writer that has a great relationship, a great brotherly relationship with his friends.
Mm-hmm.
But
they do also skip largely over his formulation of his languages because, like one moment he's trying to get into college, and then the next moment he's got like the elven characters on his wall.
Yeah.
And he's just like, I've made this entire language, professor, and I'm just like, when did you do that?
Now granted,
that's true.
Now granted, I think some people would say there would be some people like the casual film goer would be like, I don't care, like, but me, I'm kind of like, language fascinates me, so like I would love like a whole scene of him developing like Elven. Like I'd be like, yes.
Well, I liked that scene where they were at brunch and they were developing, what was that language called?
Celador or like,
cellar door.
Yeah.
Because I was like, oh, he's going down to the cellar door, open it up, get a bottle of wine or something out.
Yeah.
I think that's what it was.
Yeah.
And he that scene was great because he was crafting it.
Mm-hmm.
And then there was the scene where he was talking to the professor. He said, oh, I've got verb structures and conjugations and sentences and words and an alphabet. And it was like, that's awesome, dude. And you just walk up like, whatever. I have a language.
But I also liked the part where like the professor says something in some other language and then he like responds.
Yeah,
the professor
was kind of
amazing.
cool.
The professor, I think in Old Germanic, says, leave me alone and let me do my work, and he just goes, no. And the professor turns around and is like, what do you mean no? He said, I know what you said, and I'm saying no. I'm doing this.
He says, like, if I were to leave you alone to do your own work, like, then I'd miss out on a great opportunity. And the professor's like, oh, he understood me. Dang.
Yeah.
Like,
can you write me a 5,000 word essay by tonight? Sure thing.
Sure thing. And he did.
He
He
did.
didn't have
True,
a
but
MacBook
we never
Pro.
saw him turn it in or anything. Did we ever see that?
I don't think we did.
Although I'm okay with that type of edit
Yeah.
because if you know plot structure, you know he's getting into that class once he did that move to the professor, you know he's getting in. So like the tension of, does the guy like his paper? Like,
I guess you see him sitting down in class.
yeah,
Yeah,
like that.
okay.
The next scene's him sitting in class, like learning, and the guy's like spewing off Latin or whatever he's doing.
Yeah. Also, this kind of comes down to editing. It also kind of comes down to production design a little bit. The portrayal of the passage of time in this movie I thought was really unconvincing.
It's bonkers.
Particularly when like one scene he's at Oxford, or one scene he's at the hospital or something, and then the next scene he's Professor Tolkien. And
Well, towards the end of the movie, they had a little bit of gray in his hair that I noticed. But other than that,
they did like very little effort to age him. Like
Yeah.
I didn't even notice the gray in his hair personally, which I mean I also was half asleep. at the
It
end.
was very faint. It
Yeah.
was just a little bit right here and some where his hair was pushed to the side.
Okay.
Well,
But-
and I don't want to ethnically like profile here, but that might be a byproduct of the director's like nationality, because I know when I watched Beautiful Boy, which was directed also by I think a Finnish or a Swedish filmmaker, the passage of time, and that's also very bizarre. So it may be just culturally, like in Europe and stuff, the time, like they don't have strict rules about showing passage of time as we're used to in American studio systems.
True.
Yeah, and then you look at little kid Tolkien and his friends in the scene where they're in the parlor, and it ages them up immediately, which I liked the cut.
Yeah,
that was
but it's
a cool
like
cut.
this is 13 or 14-year-old Tolkien, and he's, he looks like a kid, and then this is 17-year-old Tolkien. He's Nicholas Hoult.
Yeah.
I will say though, I did get confused with some of his friends. Like they didn't exactly look. Like I honestly think they didn't choose like the best like casting.
Well, two of them look the same because they're both blonde and have similar
Yes.
faces.
I couldn't tell who they were. Like younger version to grown up version. I was like, I do not know which one's which.
I thought Jeffrey's age switch was good. I thought they had similar, and not just because they had black hair. I thought their facial structures were similar and some of their mannerisms. But the other two, I mixed the other two up all the way through the movie.
I thought it was really funny when the age kind of switch happened. Karlyn, you leaned over to me, and when talking about the actor who played Jeffrey, you go, "Is that Rico from Hannah Montana?"
I thought so too.
Thank you.
Which it wasn't, but I get the confusion. It does kind of look.
Shout out to Moises Arias.
Moises Arias still looks like 15.
Yeah, have you seen? Side note: have you guys seen
The Kings of Summer?
Yeah,
I've seen it.
That's what a weird
or
movie.
Ender's Game.
Did not see Ender's Game. Actually,
He's the boy though, right?
Yeah.
What was Hannah Montana's brother named? Because that dude was like
Jackson.
No, like in real life. Because that dude was like 40.
Yeah,
Jason Earl.
Jason Earl. He was like 40 when they filmed it.
Yeah.
Really?
Yeah,
He was
like 35 when they filmed it, and he's like
38
He's
or
in his
39 when they
mid-40s.
finished
No
it.
way.
It was
Are
insane.
you serious?
Yeah.
I had no idea.
it's crazy.
Yeah, no, I mean he easily passed for a 16-year-old.
Yeah.
But like,
Because he was only wow, Hannah Montana tangent. Throw back to Mr. Crew. Hannah Montana, they only had like a 3 or 4 year age gap between them, right?
Yeah.
She was like 14 or so.
that she was like the actual age of her character for the whole show. Like
Yeah.
started out 13 and went to like 17 or 18, and then he starts the show 32.
Side note,
playing a 16-year-old.
Side note: the cheese jerky song that he
Yes.
and Oliver do comes up in my head shockingly frequently to this day.
I don't.
Wiki wet.
Never forget.
No, covering my ears. I don't want that to keep coming. I forgot that song.
This is what happens when you have a little sister that just loves Disney Channel.
Sure,
Blame it on the
Joseph.
sister.
Alright.
Sure, Joseph.
I was a Sweet Life of Zack and Cody guy. But
I
you
was
know,
too.
Sometimes Hannah Montana would just be on.
Phil
darn.
of the Future. Anybody?
Oh,
I was
absolutely.
not as much a Phil of the Future guy.
I
I
was.
liked the Even Stevens, jumping to Nickelodeon, Drake and Josh.
I totally forget the context of this episode of Phil of the Future, but there's one episode where like Phil's trying to come up with something and he just says like, "I like milk," and he says it in such a weird way that my sister and I quote this to each other like daily.
I don't even remember that one.
Yep. Remember like the Kaylee's Corner episode where she like tries to make old things trendy again, like mop heads and stuff.
I do remember that. Does.
And I thought that his little sister's evil lair was so cool because she had like a handprint thing in her wall, and I was like, that's what I want. That's what I aspire. Not to be evil, but just a lair.
Why is it always the little sister in like 2000s Disney and Nickelodeon shows? That's the schemer. You got her, you got Megan. Megan. Yeah.
Karlyn, it's my turn to be lost when they were talking about Phil of the Future. Everything's
Me
going
too,
over my-
though. I did not have cable until like middle school.
True.
I'll drop some more Tolkien knowledge on you in a couple minutes.
Sounds good. But yeah, is that kind of all of our thoughts on Tolkien?
I think so.
I was okay with the movie.
I
I thought the
okay.
pacing was bad and it was really boring, but the performances were really good.
Yeah.
I will not say that I was underwhelmed or overwhelmed. I was whelmed. It existed. I watched it. I had thoughts.
Yeah. No.
Whelmed is a good word for it.
Yeah, I feel bad because like I went into the movie just physically not feeling great, and I hate associating a movie with like a physical feeling that I had while watching it, and I do that a little more often than I should. But it just needless to say, it did not make my headache or fatigue any better. It did not like it kind of, if anything, it accelerated my sleep. and you kind of saw me, Karlyn, like start to lie on my side probably in the middle of the theater, and I was just like, all right, I'll just wait for the next explosion in the trench.
Were you doing the church head bob?
He left at
where
one
you go
point.
like head down and then pop back up.
I was just like, I reclined the seat to the full, like almost vertical or horizontal, and just kind of clocked for about 5 minutes at a time. And
then you left?
And then I left for the bathroom because I needed to be somewhere with a lot of light because I needed to wake back up. I'm sorry.
Hey, we've all been there. I don't know if you saw me, but I started to do a little bit of like the face on my hand and sort of
even with if I'm bored at the movie theater, I won't go to sleep. I'll go to sleep at home if I'm watching a movie, but in a movie theater, I still don't think I've ever fallen asleep.
Yeah, I've never fully fallen asleep in a theater.
Yeah,
apparently you had until yesterday.
Yeah, yesterday was the first time.
I think I fell asleep a little bit for Serenity.
You fell asleep a little for
Missing Link.
Missing Link.
Oh,
that's right.
Yeah. Okay.
Which
yeah,
also don't blame you for that.
No.
But yeah, it was just.
That podcast was fun to listen to.
we spent some time on that one.
Yes, we did.
That was interesting. But yeah, so I think we could probably go ahead and start with our voting. And since I technically was the only one in this room that didn't see the whole movie, like just being clocked out for a bit, like I'll let you three vote so we can also keep it at an odd number and have a solid verdict at the end. But Joseph, let's start off with you. Would you say yay or nay for this film?
I got a disclaimer.
Okay.
I would say yay if you're a Tolkien fan, nay if you're not.
Really? I would say yay if you're not a Tolkien fan. I'm sorry.
Tolkien. I went 20 years saying Tolkien, and or Tolkien, one saying Tolkien. So.
I know.
Yeah, no,
yeah, they made sure to really
that's
correct us in this movie.
Yeah.
I think if I had gone in and not been a Lord of the Rings fan, I would have just been checked out. Bored. Because, like you were saying, the pacing was bad. Because one of my favorite movies is pretty much basically dialogue only, and it's Lincoln.
Yeah.
And I love that movie.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I'm with
But
you.
this movie, the relationships were good, but I didn't think the movie was that great as a movie.
Karlyn.
I'm conflicted, honestly. Like, is it the best movie I've ever seen? Absolutely not. But I think I enjoyed watching it. But I'm also not like a huge Tolkien fan, so I wasn't like I don't know, upset by the things that were shown about his life or not shown in his life and how it like affected Lord of the Rings. Like that didn't really matter to me as much. I think I really just took away like his relationship with his friends, his like kind of relationship with his significant other. I don't know. I think I'm gonna say like a soft yay.
Soft yay. Okay.
Soft yay. Like, yay.
Yeah, I'm weirdly, I think, in between both of you. Because I think if you're going into this movie just as a generic biopic person, it's a snooze fest. Like, if you're just looking for a compelling history drama, it's boring. And if you're going in as a Tolkien fan, I think there's enough stuff about, like, his love of language and stuff like that and his imagination that will keep you interested. But if you're, I will add the caveat to that of, if you're looking for the movie about him writing Lord of the Rings, don't go to this movie expecting to see how Lord of the Rings was made.
And I think that's maybe what my expectation was.
Mine too.
And it got
because I think that's the trailer's fault.
I do think that's the trailer's fault.
I think I knew that we weren't going to get much just because I had thought already about the rights situation.
Yeah, that would have
I
changed.
was shocked when he got to write "In a Hole in the Ground There Lived a Hobbit."
Yeah. So I'm with Karlyn. Like I think a soft yay.
Soft yay.
I definitely say don't go see this in theaters.
Yeah,
like
no,
wait for it to be on HBO Go or TNT or FX or something like that and watch it there.
All right. Well, I don't even know if we can ascribe a verdict to this because like we all are just
know
like.
John was a solid nay.
I'm a solid nay, but like I don't want to like. I don't know. We're all kind of in between.
We're just like it's fine.
Yeah. So
it's whelming.
So, for as much as I'm concerned, no drum roll, no verdict for what I'm thinking, but I think we're okay with that.
I think I'm fine with that.
It's not by any means a bad movie.
No, I've seen worse.
It's not one I don't think I see myself watching it again.
Nope, same.
Now, I do have my quick Tolkien blurb
Go
that
ahead.
they did go over in the movie, but they didn't say they were going over it. You remember at the end of the movie when they were doing like all biopics do and write what happens later in life?
Yes.
They say that on his and Edith's graves are the names of a mortal man and an elven princess.
Mm-hmm.
So Aragorn and Arwen.
No?
Beren and Luthien. So Beren and Luthien were thousands of years before Aragorn and Arwen. The stories are pretty parallel, but the thing goes is Beren wants to marry Luthien, and Luthien's father does not approve of Beren. And so it's kind of like an allegory for Tolkien's life. He didn't like allegory, but it's like unintentional, for how him and Edith just kept running into problems that they couldn't be together, like with the priest, and then he was off at Oxford. And so Luthien's father comes to him and says, I will give you an impossible task, and if you do it, you can have her hand in marriage. And so the impossible task is you have to take a Silmaril, which is where the Silmarillion gets its name. Silmarils are old jewels that are priceless. They're more priceless than priceless. And there are 3 of them, I think. He has to steal one from Morgoth, who is Sauron's boss.
I'm about to say, he's the big bad, right?
Oh, shoot.
So he's the big bad dude, and he's like the most powerful person ever. He's basically an evil archangel.
Nice.
So this is a human that has to go steal one of these stones, and he says okay, and him and Luthien both go, and Beren is killed, but he steals the stone, and then some weird elf stuff happens, and they have a kind of like a sub-god that allows Beren to come back to life. So after they go through this whole ordeal, they're able to be together and live their happily ever after, which is what they kind of were going for with Tolkien and Edith. And the way he came up with the character of Luthien was the scene in the movie where him and Edith are in like a garden and she's dancing around in the trees and singing. So he completely based Luthien off of her.
Interesting.
Oh, cool. That's
So-
adorable.
So that's why Beren and Luthien are on their graves.
Aw.
Wow.
That's really sweet.
Yeah. Tolkien's a cool guy.
Yes.
But yeah, I love that story of Beren and Luthien. And then you kind of see it with Aragorn and Arwen. Because in the books, Aragorn is not allowed to marry Arwen unless he becomes the king of the reunited kingdom of Gondor and Arnor. Which he does.
But then she has to give up her mortality as an elf, right?
Yes, and I think Luthien also did.
Shoot. Well, that's sweet too.
Hardcore Tolkien stuff.
Yeah,
Hey, no, I'm glad we got to end on more of a sweet, positive note than
for sure.
meh.
At least it seems like none of us like despised.
No.
No.
I don't know.
No.
John was pretty close.
Okay, I did not despise the movie.
No. I think the only movie I've ever seen in recent memory that I despise is Captain State. Oh my goodness. Like,
Horrible. So bad.
The last movie I saw that I despised was the 4th Transformers movie.
I didn't even see it. I
hated that movie with every cell in my body.
Dang.
Yeah, I haven't watched a full Transformers movie since the first, and I'm fine with it.
The first one was actually objectively fun.
Yeah,
I rewatched it 3 times and I'm like, I still like it. I know people hate on Michael Bay. I'm having a good time.
I like it a lot.
Michael Bay can be a good director. Because you look at something like 13 Hours, which I don't know what you guys thought of it, but
I
thought
love
it was great.
13 Hours.
Haven't seen that either.
I have not either.
It was on Hulu or Prime Video for a time.
Okay.
Looking at 13 Hours, I was like, why can't this guy do this to Transformers?
Yes.
Because this is a great movie.
I think, although I say this, but Pearl Harbor, I was like, I think he needs more realistic scenarios to bring out the good in him, because it's a semi cheesy '90s movie, but The Rock with Nicolas Cage and Sean Connery, great fun action movie.
I've heard that's a good one.
Great.
Yeah.
Sean Connery is a boss. Like, it's the best he's ever been since James Bond, in my opinion.
Wow.
I'll have to visit that.
I don't know. I
one
love Indiana Jones and the Last Crusade.
Ooh, I forgot about
Also
that.
true.
I was watching that last weekend. Great movie.
My
He's awesome,
dad and
yeah.
I quote, like, just the Junior to each other, like, very frequently.
That's awesome. Nice. Well, I think we ought to go ahead and acknowledge that this will be the last episode of Real Underdogs for a little while.
Yes, indefinite hiatus.
Indefinitely. We are saying today's goodbye to our original panelist, Karlyn, Chen.
Oh man.
Yes.
So sad.
Yeah, for context, we are all going to be graduating this upcoming Friday, so the day after this broadcasts. And from there, I think we discussed it last week, but Karlyn's going to be going to Florida, working for a cruise line. Trent's going to be working in the film industry in Atlanta. I'm going to be reporting for a newspaper in the DC area. And Joseph, where are you headed after graduation?
I am going back home and doing civil engineering work.
Nice. And back home is Danville, correct?
Danville, Virginia.
So South Central Virginia. Good
South
times.
Central Virginia.
So
I'm trying to copyright Sova instead of Nova.
Now you can't put it in the airwaves. Somebody's gonna hear it now.
Darn.
I think the official media law is once it's made public in some form, it's copyrighted. I don't know.
Well, if somebody takes Sova and makes it a thing, that's good to go. Because living in Southern Virginia, when I came here and heard Nova, I thought Nova was a city.
Yeah, no, it took me a while to get used to that.
Yeah.
For sure. Also being from North Carolina, not really knowing Nova until now.
Well, people in Nova don't call it Nova.
True, yeah.
I don't know. I came here, and somebody said Nova at like orientation. It's like, wow, I've never heard of that place. Must be in Northern Virginia somewhere.
Yeah. But I do want to give a shout out that this whole thing started because John birthed this brainchild and then invited me and Karlyn a part of it. So anything you've enjoyed about this podcast is sort of directly attributed to him.
100%.
So thank you, John, for inviting us so far.
Well, of course.
And I can't wait to continue it with you. And Karlyn, I've loved doing this with you. We've gotten to be such tighter friends, I think, because
I
of this.
know, yeah,
And
totally.
So
Absolutely.
I'll be
sad.
listening from afar,
Yes.
for sure.
Yes.
From way afar. From the middle of
Yes.
nowhere. The middle of the sea.
We'll see.
But yeah, we'll be taking a couple weeks hiatus as we settle into our new living situations. Once we start back up, we will have as our new third panelist, Justin Redman. You guys have heard him on this podcast as a guest panelist a couple of times, and we will be recording it remotely from Atlanta, DC, and Pittsburgh, I believe, is where Justin's going to be.
Wow.
So, you'll be hearing underdog opinions from all over the eastern seaboard.
Nice.
But, so I think that's all that we got for today, but glad to have done this with you guys. Thank you so much again for coming and visiting Joseph.
Yes.
Thanks for having me. I don't usually get to nerd out like this.
Yeah, no, this is what we're here for.
I knew once this was on the schedule, John and Karlyn can testify. I'm like, I need to get Joseph Sneed on here for this.
Oh,
This is his
100%.
time to shine.
Hopefully you learned some new things.
Honestly,
I did.
About
I
the
did.
Silmarillion.
I learned a lot.
I learned more from you than I did from the movie, so I'm
Well,
sorry.
the movie didn't go into detail about the world. I'm the world guy.
There you go.
Here you go.
There you go. All right, so that'll do it for this episode of Real Underdogs. Real Underdogs is produced by me, John Battiston. My panelists are Karlyn, Chen, and Trent Neely. Special guest panelist Joseph Sneed for the day. Our music is by Ross Walter, and I would thank Virginia Tech Libraries for letting us equipment and space, but we're using my microphone and we're in an office on the other side of
They
campus.
failed us.
But we can still thank the libraries for all of the
Yeah, thank you for
support
all
they
that you guys have
provided.
done.
Especially
We know
our
that
friend
you...
Taylor.
Taylor-
Shout out to you.
Taylor
Shout out to
Butcher, our Studio B guy, we wouldn't have been able to do all this without you, so thank you again.
Thank you, Taylor.
Thanks for
So-
getting us pizza that one time.
Yeah, thank you for the pizza. That was
Thanks
a
to
good time.
Femoyer Hall.
Thank you
Yes,
to
thank
Femoyer
you,
Hall, where we
Femoyer.
are right now.
Yes.
So until next time, which will be a couple weeks from now, hopefully.
Hailheimer!
Hail Heimer!
Hammer.
See you guys.
Love you.
Love you.